Let's see. We are on 2,100 days. 2,100 days. 2,100 days we've been doing this. Um, and many of those days at the beginning, I did two a day. I did two a day. Oh, I was asked, please, can you just go to one a day? Maybe once a week. No, Um, anyway, so we've been doing this for 2,100 days um, since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. Richard's our son. He was young, just turned 21. He was joined the army when he was 18. He saw things, started in Qatar. He didn't like it. It was very bad. It was very illegal, and his chain of command were involved in it. And he reported it. He reported it. He became a whistleblower, and he was under whistleblower protection. But the cartel were infiltrated into our military, into El Paso. The El Paso cartel were infiltrated, and so they schemed, they conspired, they colluded, they at the top levels of all this, because of course it involved fuel theft, it involved billions of dollars of drug revenue. It's just so big, y'all. And of course, with the child trafficking and everything, and Richard reported it, and it triggered investigations and audits. Of course, investigations or audits, but I like to mention audits because that was told directly to our face that they were being audited. And this has to do with weapons, and we have been documenting everything that we have found in our investigation. And we've been investigating not just, once a month or once a week. Every day we've been investigating for 2,100 days. 2,100 days. What kind of degree is that, right? And we've learned so much of what's going on at the border with the El Paso cartel, with the other cartels, meaning the Sinaloa cartel, which has two factions, the Chapitos faction and the Maíza faction, because there were two godfathers, right? The godfathers, the El Mayo and El Chapo. And El Chapo was a little bit, well, from I don't know him personally, but from what I've been told, he was a little bit more uh, unhinged, a little bit more unhinged, or a little bit more not as controlled than El Mayo. El Mayo, we were told, was a more mature one, out of more. I don't know. I don't know if you call it mature, because they're both criminals, right? They're both criminals. They both started the Sinaloa cartel. The more restrained one, I should say, the more restrained, didn't want to, El Mayo didn't want to get into meth. Um, I don't think he wanted to get into fentanyl. I'm not sure. With that, it was cocaine, a lot of cocaine, and of course the weapons, and of course the hotels and um, the casinos and the timeshares, and of course we know that the CJNG cartel was also doing the timeshares, um, hotels, timeshares, but they were really bad, really, really bad. But the Sinaloa cartel, and of course, you have the Juarez cartel, you have the Gulf cartel, you have uh, the El Paso the La Linea, right? The La Linea cartel, um, and they seem to be all under the thumb of the El Paso cartel. the philanthropists, they wanted the U.S. market, right? They wanted the U.S. market, and they were under the thumb of the El Paso cartel, except for El Mayo. El Mayo was the holdout, you see. He was the holdout, and now you have his setup. Okay, this is where this governor from Sinaloa comes in, and we'll go over that. Let's see if I can make sure that I'm on. Doesn't show that I'm on. Try it again, just so I can see. Yeah, there it goes. All right. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. I see you now. Thank you for your prayers and your love. And happy Sunday, right? Oh, it's Monday. We're burning the midnight oil. I thought I was getting on a little bit earlier today, but anyway, so we're going to talk about Texas Governor Greg Abbott and um, this whole situation that happened with Maru Campos. Maru Campos is the governor of Chihuahua, and she is absolutely a leader in the Sinaloa cartel. The Chapitos, I hope I'm saying it right, Chapitos arm of the Sinaloa cartel. And they had a problem because she was also very part of the El Paso cartel. Okay, she was very much influenced with the El Paso cartel. She was under the thumb of the El Paso cartel because that's where all the money, that's where the philanthropists, that was the gateway into the United States, into the banking, the money laundering. Where do you put when you make all this? Or with Maru Campos, she was embezzler, right? She was an embezzler. What do you do with all this embezzled money, right? You've got to put it into a bank somewhere. You've got to clean it up somewhere. And the choice place was El Paso. El Paso, with the real estate and um, well, we should just ask the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein. He was the one that was cleaning up all kinds of money for billionaires and stuff like that. Money laundering expert, right? The money laundering expert. Um, so this is why you have Alejandro de la Vega Foster um, being the double agent, right? All the benefits of Texas, of the United States, with all the benefits of Chihuahua, Mexico, and facilitating the meeting between the two, Maru Campos and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. And, this whole thing with El Mayo is so important to understand because El Mayo was not falling in line with all of them, right? He had his own mind and he wasn't falling in line. So they set him up, and El Chapo's son set him up, and a Texas philanthropist plane set him up. And that's really important because they tampered with they violated international law with the flight and tampered with the number on the plane and tampered with the flight logs and all of that. So, that tells you, because they were tampering, that they know what they were doing was illegal, that what they were doing was absolutely illegal. And they set him up and they assaulted him. They put a bag over his head. They threw him in the plane. They flew him to El Paso, Santa Teresa Jetport, International Jetport. And the FBI were waiting for him there. What do you mean? This is an unauthorized, unlawful operation. It's illegal, but yet the FBI was on the tarmac waiting for El Mayo. How did they know that El Mayo was going to arrive? How did they? I mean, how could you take him in custody when there was no extradition orders? There was no extradition orders. But yet, Connell Wetton, his office there in El Paso, uh, um, did not abide by the law, did not care that there was no extradition order for this kingpin of this founding of the Sinaloa cartel. I mean, big time billionaire, right? Big time billionaire. Um, they absolutely violated in 2024 so many laws, and the FBI went along with it and arrested him. And he is in custody in the Eastern District of New York, right? The Eastern, I think that's what it's called, the Eastern District of New York. Okay. That's El Mayo. So that's, and why in New York, we're going to find out, right? And El Mayo is, he didn't get and stay where he was by having a low IQ. He doesn't have a low IQ. Is he a criminal? Yes. But does he have a high IQ? Yes. He was a more restrained, I don't want to say sensible, but out of the two, this is what I was told. This is not my opinion. This is what I was told, because he did not want to do child trafficking. He did not want to do um, the uh, the meth. He didn't want to traffic meth. Okay, he had certain boundaries, and and now he's in prison. And does he forgive and forget? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think that he is absolutely mad as hell. And how do I know that? Because his people put out those big signs, remember, that called out Maru Campos, Cesar Hargi. He was calling them out. We put it out there, over a year ago. We were saying, look, El Mayo is mad as hell for what, and is calling out the corruption, even though here he is, a cartel. And not just any cartel, he's FTO, right? He is a designated terroristic organization. And he's calling out Maru Campos as the Chapitos arm in line with the El Paso cartel corruption, right? So you have a lot of information because there is this division, and there is like an axe to grind now, right? There's an axe to grind. Um, then you have all this information coming out, and the information led to the indictment of um, Ruben Rocha Moya. So, before I read the indictment and show you, I'm just going to read a few quotes from it because it's fascinating and it's absolutely in regards to our son's case. But I want to really talk about Greg Abbott and how this all happened. The FBI, why were the FBI in the hands of the El Paso cartel, which was in line with Maru Campos? Because Greg Abbott signed the treasonous treaty that gave access to the cartels, to the FBI, to the CIA, to intelligence databases, to federal cases. And these are federal databases. Why is a state official giving away things that he has no jurisdiction to give away? It is a treasonous treaty on both sides of Maru Campos and of Greg Abbott. And I have a little video here. I thought I had a little video here. Did I? Let's see. Maybe I got rid of it. No, I got it. I was like, oh my gosh. All right. So let me play this. And it's in Spanish. And really, what I just want you to do is watch it because it's fascinating. So here is Governor Greg Abbott with Maru Campos. And there's the border. There's the border. They're showing the border. And he is giving access to, matter of fact, in the treasonous treaty, um, part of it is that these 18 wheelers don't have to be scrutinized coming across the border. Can you believe it? Like you're going to have a whole 18 wheeler full of weapons, which has happened, ammunition, which has happened, drugs, which has happened, children, which has happened, other humans, which has happened. And this is the deal that Governor Abbott is signing with Maru Campos. I mean, uh, it is this is the face right here. This video is the treasonous treaty on both sides. On the side of Governor Abbott and on the side of Maru Campos. It is really, and look at the people standing in the back like that. And just to give you, a sense of what can happen to Greg Abbott, because of course you have 40 years for Maru Campos, right? That's what they want to, and they're moving forward with it. And I'm going to turn this off now, but they're moving forward with charging her with treason. And she really is facing 40 years. That's moving very fast. Very fast. They are mad in Mexico. They're very mad in Mexico of these CIA agents that died that really revealed what was going on. Even though they might have known that this was going on, but because these CIA agents died and it got out to the public, they have to address it now, right? And they have to have their anger tone and all that stuff. But there's no doubt in my mind that they knew this stuff was going on, okay? Because of what we learn in the Ruben Rocha Moya indictment. It is just wow. Wow. What could Governor Abbott be facing for signing the treasonous treaty? What can he be facing? And so I have a couple things here. The first one is the federal crime of treason, right? It's a treasonous treaty. He signed it. He went along with it. He backed it up. He gave access to the cartels because he's signing it with Maru Campos. And he absolutely knows. We know, he knows, everyone knows that Maru Campos was Sinaloa cartel. Okay, that she was a narco governor and also with the El Paso cartel. And how does he know the El Paso cartel? Because they used to come and pick it. Well, maybe now still, lend their planes to pick him up to come to El Paso to have dinners with CJNG cartel because they would have their cartel parties, right? And introduce him to the cartel leadership. This is, wow, this has been confirmed, and he absolutely knew that Maru Campos was the Sinaloa, the Chapitos arm of the Sinaloa cartel that was in agreement with the El Paso cartel. Um, he absolutely knew that, and he was giving our federal databases, our federal cases, including our son's case, our federal agents, the surveillance footage, all of those cameras. And it was reciprocal. Okay. It was reciprocal. And, but America is America and Mexico is Mexico. So take that, how you want. Um, but they absolutely reciprocal, and uh, so this is treasonous, so he could be charged with the federal crime of treason, which is it could be the death penalty. Okay, he could be facing the death penalty. Will it happen? I don't know. The world is so different. Maybe like a year ago I would say no way, but now the world is just very different. Things are happening. The Logan Act, you can't be, a government official for the state and give away federal access. You just can't do that because the Logan Act, quote unquote, defeat the measures of the United States. You are negotiating and corresponding with foreign governments to defeat the measures of the United States. And absolutely, he did that because of the border. He absolutely caused a breach with the border. Let's not scrutinize 18 wheelers coming across the Mexican border where there is cartel and trafficking problems. Are you kidding me? Um, you know, it's just crazy. So, yeah, so that would be time in prison, and then, of course, the terrorist organization designation conflict. And what does that mean? Well, he just designated, um, who was it? Let's see. Oh yeah, the Muslim Brotherhood. He just designated the Muslim Brotherhood as an FTO, right? And then he's doing deals with an FTO. You know, talk about hypocrisy. It's a total hypocrisy. And that is a conflict of interest, I guess, a conflict. But he's also misusing his official information that he has by sharing, giving access to databases and everything. While we, as a Gold Star family, have to jump through hoops and back again, doing somersaults, and still might not get access to information. It really is a disgrace. It's so disgraceful. So he is really looking at some very, very, his life can be taken from him for what he did. So it's a little more serious for Governor Greg Abbott than it is for Maru Campos. She's looking at 40 years because they don't have the death penalty in in Mexico. So okay, so let's look at now um, the the indictment for who? Governor of Sinaloa. Governor of Sinaloa is Ruben Rocha Moya. Okay, I can't make that up. I mean, you're going to be like, Rocha Moya, you mean Willie Moya? You know, um, you just can't make it up, and Roach, and whatever. But this is Ruben, and let me turn it on. This is, yeah, this is the indictment, and it's online, and I put up the link to it, and you can read it, and it's so fascinating. And I did do a little bit of marks just to let people know, just to read through it a little bit, highlight the El Paso parts, the parts of it that really um, corroborate everything that we have been saying. So this is very important indictment because, and I'm do I think that it came at a time to as a decoy? I do, but after reading this indictment, I'm like, oh wow, this really helps us. This really helps us. So that's why I'm going to add it still to the whole Maru Campos. We need to keep focus on Alejandro de la Vega, who facilitated the whole meeting with Maru Campos and Greg Abbott, because she needs to be named in this too, because she insisted that she wanted to facilitate their meeting. Um, and so, but let's look at how this indictment adds to the situation there in El Paso to strengthen um, our case. So first of all, we're going to go to page 11. Page 11, and I'll try to blow it up a little bit and read that. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So it says here, oh wow, Honduras. Okay. Um, the mess the methods through which cartel traffickers import and smuggle huge amounts of fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines across the border into the states are diverse, including by boats, private planes, private planes, um, and ATVs. Certain of these shipments are smuggled on board vessels that themselves are legally declared and lawfully access ports of entry. Most often, the cartel's narcotics cross U.S. borders at ports of entry, for example, concealed in secret compartments of cars, disguised among commercial goods, in tractor trailers, hidden in luggage on planes, obscured through fake paperwork in shipping containers, or um, or in the bodies of drug mules, right? The cartel relies on the impossibility of inspecting every item, right? That crosses US Mexico border. And that's why, especially if you have bribed the CBP, if you have bribed the officials, um, then you have no problems. You can just get it through. But it does mention um, tunnels too. So the other and these shipments are transported on board so-called black flights. That is, flights where airplanes turn off their transponders to fly undetected or undeclared maritime vessels that travel from Mexico and unlawfully enter the United States carrying illicit products. The cartel also imports fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines into the United States through secret tunnels that connect Mexico to the United States. There we go. And we've been talking tunnels a whole lot. So once the cartel has transported the narcotics into the United States, cartel traffickers maintain designated stash locations. Okay. Um, so let me translate that for you. Designated stash locations are warehouses, storage facility, and warehouses. Who has the biggest business in storage facilities and warehouses? Oh, is that Beto O'Rourke's family? Is that Beto? Yes, his father-in-law, William Sanders, was even mentioned as storing Jeffrey Epstein's items like hard drives and evidence and everything in his storage facilities. That was mentioned. We posted on that. And now, but I want to tell you the billions, I think it's like $20 billion at his height that he owned in that El Paso up to Santa Fe corridor of storage units and warehouses. And, to traffic, you have to get it across the border and have some place to store it, be it whatever it is. And so those are called stash houses. Warehouses are called stash houses, storage units, stash houses. And that's really, really important. So the cartels use US based distribution network, then sells these narcotics wholesale for retail distribution throughout the United States. Um, yeah. Once the cartel has transported its narcotics into the United States, cartel traffickers maintain designated stash locations where the fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and or methamphetamines are stored, which are generally clustered in U.S. metropolitan areas along the border. For example, Southern California, El Paso, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona. So, of course, El Paso, Texas sticks out really. I mean, there it is. There it is. That's really important. Okay. El Paso, Texas is explicitly listed as one of the three border metropolitan areas for cartel stash locations. Okay, that is really a huge point. Okay, so let's go to page 14. And I'm just going to read my notes. The cartel relies on the and directs not only hundreds of violent, heavily armed sicarios. Those are their fighters. Their little. I guess they are the assassins, right? The sicarios. But also scores of corrupt government officials. So I'll read that again. The cartel relies on and directs not only hundreds of violent, heavily armed sicarios, but also scores of corrupt government officials. So, gosh, just to have this drug trafficking ruins our communities, y'all, and ruins our countries. Ruins our communities, ruins our countries because it adds the violence and it adds the corruption of the government officials. First, the cartel sicarios regularly use military grade weapons. That's why we have all this military smuggling, weapon smuggling, including armored trucks, bazookas, which are rocket launchers, grenades. Remember, I told you grenade. they have found C4. They were stealing C4 from Fort Bliss, handheld grenade launchers, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So this is not just a handgun or one rifle and a few bullets. No, this is an army. Our army is arming their army, their illegal army, and that is what has been going on. Um, Various types of firearms, including the AK-47 and the AR-15, and I'm sure it would not surprise me if there would be M4s in the bunch. And of course, all the ammos, none of those weapons are worth anything unless you have the ammunition. And we already know that there are reports, official reports, of 18 wheelers full of ammunition, full of ammunition. It's just like, oh, it's crazy. Okay. So a lot of violence there, a lot of violence planned. So let's go to make sure I have, okay, 14. I have another one here. The security apparatus formed by the Sicarios, coupled with the cartel's relationship with corrupt government officials, protect the cartel's operations and its leaders, territory, labs, trafficking routes, and money. The labs and trafficking routes and money. Interesting. Yes. They also, members of the Chapitos or the cartels, putting the cartels in this, have also coordinated with corrupt state and local law enforcement to kidnap and murder its enemies, including individuals suspected of cooperating with U.S. government. And this is page 18. I need to go to page 18. Sorry, I'm reading 18. And I could even go like this a little bit. Try to fit it on. Yeah. So, yeah, government officials helped the cartel kidnap and murder its enemies. Government officials. So, is this, gosh, is this Alejandro de la Vega? Is this Maru Campos? Is this Ruben Rocha? This is his indictment, Ruben Rocha Moya. And are they talking about Richard Halliday? Are they because they sent Ray Velarde to Richard? Which, come on. They used El Mayo's lawyer after, you know, really? Um, this is, did they do that to El Mayo? Did they use that to set him up? It smells that way. It really smells that way. I'll leave it for the investigators, for law enforcement, but something is not right. Allowing Chapitos to move its operations and evidence of criminal activity before the searches occur. Yeah, this is the government officials would give them a warning and say the compromised government officials would give them a warning and saying, hey, the cops are coming. The cops are coming. You better clean it up. And then they could move their criminal activity before the searches occurred, if there was like audits and everything. In furtherance of cartel drug trafficking, defendants engaged in acts described below. Among other things, certain corrupt officials have helped the Chapitos engage in the worst acts, right? In the worst acts. Yeah. And then again on page 26, you can find to protect and further its drug trafficking operations. The cartel relies on and directs not only hundreds of violent, heavily armed sicarios, so they repeat it again. And the cartel's army regularly uses military grade weapons. They repeat that again on page 27. So, military grade weapons are like highlighted through this. So, this is really fascinating to read. And it tells you that it's El Paso, and El Paso has Fort Bliss, and Fort Bliss has military grade weapons and all of that other stuff, and that there are officials that are corrupt, like Montoya, like Alejandro de la Vega, like Bill Hicks, and many more that have been paid off and allow this trafficking to occur, including Maru Campos on the Mexican side with Carlos Manuel Salas, with Cesar Harrigan, Cesar Paneche, and now Greg Abbott is looking, and of course Greg Abbott, and of course Greg Abbott. I don't know how much they paid him. And they even talk about that, and I didn't write notes about that, but it does talk about how they would promise for their allegiance, instead of the allegiance that they swore to their office, to the Constitution, to their country, be it Mexico or be it the United States, their allegiance was to the cartel, okay? And to this drug trafficking to ruin countries and bring in all kinds of violence. That's where it's, you know, you absolutely have to welcome accountability in this, because of all the people that we haven't seen, right? That were so hurt by all of this, the unseen, right? And that's why they concentrate on doing these puff pieces for these criminals, because they want you to see it, because you might, feel sorry for them and go easy on them and like them and everything and look the other way. But what about the unseen? All of, 500,000 children being trafficked, all the women being trafficked and going missing, the flesh peddling, the human flesh eating, the drugs that have hurt so many families, the economy that has been hurt, that we don't even understand and can't even comprehend the amount of damage of the theft, of the embezzlement, and everything that has hurt our economy, that has hurt our lives. It's the unseen, right? It's the unseen. And um, so, I think that we need to focus on the unseen, when we are looking at accountability for Maru Campos and Alejandro de la Vega and um, Greg Abbott. We need to think about the unseen, because the media is complicit. They don't show us the real victims. They don't show us. So, okay. So this is I think it's really really huge news. And I think I covered um there's just so much to talk about, because I really want to get into Nadal Baim again. Don't forget about Nadal Baim, because of the link with Iran, and so we'll be talking about that um this next time. But yeah, what is Greg Abbott facing? What is Maru Campos facing? We hope accountability, and we need to be vicious in calling out accountability because of all of the victims, including our son. So let's look at comments. Yes, and his family. Layla Bayim Bugado, and um, yeah, had a big role. Okay, definitely. Thank you so much, Anicia, for coming on, and Laura, and um, yeah, I don't know what Max is saying. I can't read Spanish, and I don't have a translator on this one, but I will read it later. I will read it. Um, Thank you, everyone, for coming on. And I will be back tomorrow. The one thing that we ask for everyone to do is to share the information. Thank you so much for sharing. And I saw that Laura did share a lot of my memes, a lot of the memes that we have put up. And we are very grateful for that because, wow, even looking at the memes, uh, the amount of memes that we have done to get the word out, to show people the connections, it's overwhelming even to us, because there's so much. Um, so please share it because it takes a little bit to go through it, and people are busy, but it's this is life and death. This is getting our countries back, and so keep sharing, and people will. Um, we only need the minority of people that really care. They're the ones that absolutely guide our country, guide the justice system. It's just amazing. So thank you for being part of it. Thank you for sharing it, and keep praying. And we love you, and God bless you.